a gyroscope. So spiritual dynamics is such a vast concept, and the idea is that it's sort of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, except that it's like spiritual growth. And what I decided to do is to limit my conversation to Michael Beckwith has sort of taken that concept of spiritual dynamics and crafted concept of spiritual growth. And he calls it the 4 kingdoms. So that we as human beings and we as spiritual beings have a tendency to move up through these 4 hierarchies. However, when we talk about a gyroscope, let me read the definition of gyroscope for you so we're all on the same page. A mechanical or optical device used to maintain orientation during motion. A mechanical gyroscope consists of a rapidly spinning wheel set in a framework that permits it to tilt freely in any direction or to rotate about any axis. The momentum of such a wheel causes it to retain its attitude when the framework is tilted. So it really often is a children's toy. So are we all understanding what a gyroscope looks like? And the thing about it is that it is balanced no matter what. So when we talk about moving through these spiritual, what Michael Beckwith calls kingdoms, when we move our spiritual belief system around God, we still are balanced in that spirituality. So, the first kingdom, or the first spiritual stopping off place, I would say, is a concept of seeing God, or the divine, doing it to us. It is done to us. In other words, that first stopping off space, when we move into a spiritual awakening, we tend to be victims. I don't know about you, but oh my goodness, I was very talented about that. I was such a victim. And if you talk to me, you had no idea, let me tell you, about how awful my life was. As we grow spiritually, we come to the place to understand that God is not sitting out there on a throne with a lightning bolt to zap us when we misbehave or when we have gotten some consequence that we're undeserving of. So that's the first spiritual place. The Spirit as doing it to me. It is done unto me. And I am a victim of the divine. That's the first. So now as we spin around and the gyroscope takes a little tilt, we move into the second spiritual kingdom, which is, it is done by us. So when we become familiar with these concepts, we come to the place that it is done by us. And it's often called, I think this is funny, princes, parking places, and palaces. So when we're in the second kingdom, when we're in the second space of the spiral of our spiritual awakening, we think it's all about us. And you know that I always find a parking space in the front. And that I manifested, and yeah, because we're using the law of reciprocity. We're using the law that actually is a spiritual law. So we're not off of balance really too badly, but we're growing. And that's the issue, is that as we find these spiritual principles, as we move into our personal spiritual life, we are growing and we're changing. And we're calling the truth, which is, it is about us. We are no longer victims. We are able to hold a vision and manifest it using that spiritual law of reciprocity. And then what happens, and I watch it happen here through the classes, people come into this philosophy from pain or hurt or lack or need or illness. They're looking for healing of some kind. And the law of reciprocity is a wonderful tool to create good in our lives. And then, when we get the house, when we get the money, when we get the job, it becomes clear to us the third kingdom, which is, it's done through us. And this is when we understand that all of the stuff is not as important as our relationship and our expression of the divine. We're still connected. We're still moving into our spiritual growth. But our values somehow change and our belief system changes. It's done through us. Understanding that as the law works, we are the mouth and the eyes and the hands and the body of the divine. And it becomes not so much as a personal need to have all of the things that we can manifest. It becomes more of, how can we serve the divine? Use me. Move through me. And that same axis of connection with spirit, that point of integrity of the center, no matter where we are in this spiral of spiritual growth, we're still connected to the divine. And then the fourth is, it's you. It's not God in here. It is you. You are it. We are the God that we're seeking. There's no separation. That all that we are is God. We're it, the divine. Now, this is not like a spiral that is infinitely raising into the infinite bliss. It's a gyroscope, and we get knocked off balance, and we get hit with life, and so we are not just living in that fourth kingdom of rapture. We are moving through all of those aspects of the divine. I am easily kicked into the victim status. I don't know about you, maybe I'm the only one. I easily find that I perceive that I need something. I need something. I need to use the law to manifest something. But maybe I'm the only one. And then I start to understand that I'm the vehicle in the third kingdom. Someone likened it to a bus. My teacher, Alice Bandy, talked about this, that when we're in the first kingdom, we're all the little kids sitting in the back of the bus, and we're putting ourselves in a wacky-dacky driver's hands. And then, the second kingdom, we move up toward the front of the bus, and we start telling the bus driver where we want to go. And then in the third, we start driving the bus, but we're standing behind God. And so there's two bus drivers. And then the fourth, we are totally trusting. We're able to just allow. Trusting the bus, trusting the bus driver, and trusting all the passengers on the bus. Knowing that we're the bus, we're the driver, we're the passengers. It's all us. Now, as I said, we just keep moving through these kingdoms and getting knocked off balance and coming back to center and coming back to the axis because we're human. And so we do put ourselves in a victim place, and we do find ourselves in a sense of lack, and we do have a heart and concern for our fellow humans and for the nature and for the environment. We've come to the place that we understand that we are the expression of spirit in action. And then we come to the place to understand that we're it. That there's no separation between God and me. We're the divine. And often that comes in a flash. And we can't hold on to it. You may remember last week I talked about Andrew Cohen, and he said that it's very interesting when people have these flashes of enlightenment. That would be like the fourth. Then what do? Do they go back to their normal life? Do they go back to chop wood, carry water, and nothing changes? Or do they take that experience and use it, walk with it, put legs under their prayers? That's what the fourth is. So I had my birthday. I know. But I'm telling you this for a purpose, of course. I had a conversation with BC about birthdays. And he suggested that he'd like to live to be 110, and I was all over that. Yeah, that'd be great, to live to be 110. So ironically, as it always happens, I think, I ran into the story of Alice Hertz Summers, who just died in February. February 2014. And she was 110 years old and 3 months. She was born in November 26th of 1903. Now, what is so significant about Alice is that she was the oldest survivor of the Holocaust. And she was the oldest surviving concert pianist. So she and her family were taken into Nazi custody, and her husband and her mother and her aunts and uncles were killed. But Alice was a concert pianist, and so she and her son were put in for 2 years in Terezin, which was a model concentration camp that the Nazis had put together to show the rest of the world how the Jews were so well treated. So during the day, they were starved, they were abused, tortured, and at night, they gave concerts. And there was a choir, and there was a children's choir, and her son sang in the children's choir. Thus he survived. But the whole idea of her survival was that she had an opportunity to play music. And she said, music is God. Music saved my life. And she said, music saves my life. Ongoing. She said that to be optimistic and to be cheerful was the way of survival, both in the concentration camp and in her own life. So she was 110, she lived alone, and she played the piano. And she had women who also had survived that were younger than she that would come to visit. And they would have musical opportunities to play their music because God was music. Music was God. And she said that it saved her life. So to me, she was definitely living in that higher realm of spirituality, knowing that God was playing through her. She played 100 concerts of Chopin while she was in a concentration. She said Chopin was a saint. She also said that hatred eats up the hater, not the hated. So she, in her amazing lifespan, was able to forgive the Nazis, not because of the Nazis, but because of herself and because of her love of life and her zest of life. They've made a documentary film of her. I haven't seen it, but I saw a little snippet. And she was just the most vibrant, alive person. She was not 110 feeble years of getting around. She was vital and vibrant and vigorous because she was energized by music, which is her God. And Emma Curtis Hopkins says that our good is our God, and our God is our good. So what we put our attention on becomes our God. So I just want to ask, just as the gyroscope spins, where's your attention? Where is your attention? We get so distracted, it's really hard to not get distracted. All of the news, and I'm not going to repeat it because I don't even want to bring it into this room, but you know what it is. You know what it is, and you wonder, where is God? How can that happen from that Kingdom One place? What are you doing? Well, it's not doing anything. It is people that are hurt, that are in pain, that are angry. They're the ones that are doing it. Do we want to hate the haters? Do we want to be those people? Or do we want to move into a higher level of spirituality? Do we want to be the hands of God that heal? Do we want to be the voice of God that speaks love, that heals? It goes around and around, and we get to choose. Are we going to be in Kingdom 1, Kingdom 2, Kingdom 3, or Kingdom 4? Are we going to be angry? Or are we going to be loving? Are we going to be believing that God does it to you, to me? Am I going to do that? Am I going to blame God for all of the ugliness that is going on in the world? Or am I going to believe that it's done by me? That as long as I hold to the law and keep my thoughts clear and keep my thoughts, then my life's going to be good. And that's all that counts. The rest of the world has no consequence for me. Or are we going to be believing that it is done through us? That we have a responsibility to be God in action, to be the healing that we seek? Or are we going to know the truth? That we're all connected. That when the horrible, horrible, ugly things happen in this world, it's not happening to someone else. It's happening to all of us. Because we're not separate from any of them. And then we get kicked back into some other aspect of our belief system. And you know what? The truth of the matter is that it doesn't matter where we are. That whatever we believe is fine. We can think that, I don't want to slip down to that victim space in the number one kingdom, but you know, it happens. We don't want to just be shallow and only want stuff in our life and never mind about anybody else. But it happens. It's just a matter of allowing ourselves to acknowledge that one, that whatever energy, the divine, God, the good old divine, Allah, Buddha, it's all the same, and we're all part of it. Oh, they did come in, huh? So we stand at choice. And I prefer to be like Alice Hertz Summers. I prefer to live in optimism and to live in joy. And I prefer to make my life work. My God. That's how I choose to live my life. And I invite you to make those kinds of decisions for yourself. And make them consciously, rather than just allowing life to happen. I love you all. Namaste. So I would invite Kate and Lisa to stand and hold the consciousness with me. Just allow yourself to feel the embrace of the one. Allow yourself to be in that space of alignment, to be at the axis of the divine. Knowing that no matter what happens, you always come back to center, to balance. So I invite you to join with me as I speak the truth for Circle's Edge. Knowing that it is that essence of God moving through, that Circle's Edge is God in action and made manifest. And I give thanks for the vital, vigorous, growing, expansive consciousness that is Circle's Edge. I give thanks for the wisdom that is expressed so perfectly through this community. I give thanks that the perfect space is ours now, because that selection is divinely directed. I know that the space and the place, the location that allows each one of us, that comprises the spirit of the essence of Circle's Edge, is benefited and is a benefit. I celebrate the good that is this community. I celebrate the wisdom that is this community. I celebrate the joy, the strength and the power that is in this community. Because each person present is God. That's dazzling. And I just celebrate it and the truth that it is. So I claim it for each of us. I claim it for our sinner. I claim it for the consciousness, the collective consciousness of our sinner. I know that it is perfect. And I invite you to join with me in that knowing by owning it for yourself by saying, and so it is.